So, hello, I'm Bruno Prieto. I'm very excited to be here. I work as a programmer at 37 Signals. I'm going to talk about how to make web apps accessible using Rails and Hotwire. So, first, I will start by telling you about my story. I lost my sight when I was 2 years old. And when I was 5 years old, my dad had the idea that the internet could be the window to the world. Because who else knows Braille? So he sat me in front of the computer, and little by little, he taught me to navigate on Windows, write documents, copy files, and much more. And over the years, my curiosity grew. And when I was 10, I became more independent, and I learned to browse the internet, how to install programs, chat with my friends, and even play games. It was so cool. So I remember, I even remember the first time when I could make my first website. And I used a program called Macromedia Dreamweaver. Um, and it was something like Microsoft Word that translated rich text into an HTML. So those were my first experiences. And I remember was getting very excited to hear my screen reader show me those elements that I was coding. And eventually, I published my first static page into the internet. Just like my dad thought, the use of the computer opened many doors for me from a young age. And when I was 11, I went to the school with a laptop instead of a notebook. So before, I had to use a Braille typewriter. That's so big, and it's heavy. So, and also my parents had to transcribe everything into Braille. So finally, I was able to work with like all of that and do all my school works with this. People could see what I was doing, and I didn't need any transcriptions anymore. So also my mom could stop reading my books. So that was a huge progress when working with teachers and classmates. So then I learned to make better websites and started getting better at programming. And at 18, I got into the university, finished my degree, and creating my own projects. And so now I'm here working at 37 Signals. That's incredible. That's just so none of this would have been possible without accessibility. So this is how I use the web.
Rails World is sold out.
That's it.
See you in Toronto, Sept 26 and 27. Banner landmark navigation landmark visited same page link graphic Rails World logo 2024. Link fag. Link speakers. Link agenda. September 26th and 27. Toronto, Canada. Main landmark heading level 3 shaping the future of Ruby on Rails.
Well, so this is the screen reader. And this is a piece of software that reads everything on the screen. And I can interact with the elements and the controls in many ways, depending on the context. But on the web, it's generally done from left to right, top to bottom. And so that the screen reader parses the information from the DOM, and the information is read in that order. So I can use the arrow keys to move between those elements and read the content. And under the hood, the screen reader intercepts those keystrokes and changes the behavior. And many of you will think I'm using tab to navigating, but I'm not. Navigating using tab would only move through focusable controls. And if I did that, I wouldn't be able to read that headings or paragraphs in this example. So I would miss an important part of the page. So that is the first and most important thing that you need to know. Is every screen reader works differently, and each one has its own keyboard shortcuts for navigating and reading content. But actually, this is not how I use the computer in my daily life. This is a beginner's example about how to use a screen reader. I use it like this. Well, so I don't have any superpowers. You can configure any screen reader to speak like this, and also as a kid, I used the screen reader like in the first video, and I slowly increased the speed. That was the first trick to become more productive. But eventually, I hit my brain speed limit. I couldn't process it that fast. So actually, I could understand the text, but my brain very quickly forgot the content, so I had to repeat it again, and then was no longer productive. So that was the limit. So there are other ways that also I can use to increase the speed. And if you notice in the video, I moved very quickly through important parts of the website. I jumped straight to the README, quickly go to the pull request to take a look quick, and I did the same in the repository list. I do all of this. I do by recognizing these parents on the elements, and this is thanks to HTML semantics. So this is very important. Just like SEO indexes pages through the semantics, my mind does the same. I can remember the page structure for a long time, and my screen reader allows me to move using commands. But semantics is not just about the elements, but also about the order in which you write the elements. Because, as I said, screen readers read the things in the same order as the HTML is written. So, as you help the search engines understand the page, you should help me to index the page in my brain in a way that makes sense to the user interface or interaction. So in the previous video, I go to the H1 by pressing 1. I went to the pull request. I moved to the navigation region by pressing D. And I noticed that in the repository list, each repository has an H4, so I moved between them by pressing 4. And all these elements are ordered in a way that makes sense to read and understand and navigate to the page easily. So I'm always looking for patterns to read the website and also to try to be as productive as possible to achieving a quick navigation. This is my way of taking a quick look at things when exploring the web. So when I enter a page and I start analyzing it, I act like a search engine. Because the first thing that I want to read is usually the main content. Like Google when displaying an important part in the search results pages. So identifying it can be very easy if you use the right elements. That's why these HTML elements does exist. So, for example, if you wrap the main content in a main element, I'll be able to identify it quickly and quickly jump to it. So main is like an area of a page. And we also call it regions. So there's more regions, and we can move between those regions by pressing D or Shift T to go back, at least with NVDA, that is the screen reader which I use. So the other regions are header, navigation aside, and footer, that are also regions. So as a first recommendation, try to use the right regions when making your Rails layout, and it's very simple. So other useful way to navigate are headings, but only if you respect the hierarchy, because they act like a table of contents of a book. So headings aren't for changing the size of titles. They are meant to give meaning and order to the page. So the lower the number of the heading, the more important it is. So this is the second recommendation, is keep the styles of your headings separate from the number of it. Otherwise, my brain won't be able to index your sites like a table of contents. You wouldn't put wrong numbers there. Also, as part of indexing, search engines, just like me, need to know the pages that the website has. So when they start analyzing the web page and want to crawl all of the web pages, they look for links, because links are what takes you to another page. So what happens if you put a link, but that it doesn't behave like a link? You confuse the engine, right? And also you confused me, because my screen reader thinks it's a link. And I think it will take me to another page. You should only think of it's a get method. For example, if there's a link that deletes an item, my expectation would be to go to another page where I can invoke the action. So probably it has more important information that I need to know before pressing that button. And another common practice that I've seen is including an empty number sign in the href attribute. And this is a hack to prevent the default behavior of things. And if you are doing so, you are using the wrong elements for this kind of purposes, because you are telling the browser, hey, I'm trying to navigate to an anchor that doesn't exist. So also the screen reader will tell me that that link take me to another page of the same, another part of the same page, which is not true. And another thing that I have seen is applying a class button to links. So come on, it's a button or it's a link? Because for you, it looks like a button, but for me, it looks a link. So if it's not a link to navigate to another page, please use the button tags to invoke those actions. Or in other words, don't avoid to use this data to row method attribute. And use the elements that were specially designed for that. And if necessary, label it. For example, if your button has a beautiful icon or an SVG inside of it, I won't have any idea of what it does. I'll just know that it's a button, but what does it do? The only way to know is by pressing it, so which might not be a good idea. What if it's a red button that deletes all my data? So I wouldn't like to re-ask that after pressing it. So as you can see, the main idea is do not reinvent the wheel. This is the key when making accessible websites. Is just go with the flow. If you feel like you are doing something against the browser, it's probably not the right way. Nowadays, there are many ways to achieve things that were more difficult in the past. For example, designing a custom switch. It's a quite common scenario. So I get it. You don't like how the browser's native input looks. But remaking them usually ends up making them completely inaccessible. And a common issue I usually have is with customized terms and condition checkboxes. And sometimes they are inaccessible. So sometimes I just can't continue signing up. So developing your own customized inputs comes with several challenges. First, you have obviously more code to maintain, but also you have to test it in different browsers. And if you want to make it accessible, you have also to test it on different screen readers and different operating systems. Because some things can be fully accessible on Windows, for example, but not on Mac. So here in this example, you can see how you can do it. We are showing the input only for screen reader users using this CSS trick. And then you can make it beautiful depending on the state of the checkbox. Since the checkbox will be visible to the screen readers, I will be able to identify its status, and at the same time, the server can read the value immediately when submitting the form. So not only makes sense for browsers and accessibility, but also makes sense to the server and the web patterns, because this is how the forms have worked from the beginning. But the same trick can be applied also in a wrong way. Because it's quite common to hide things by, for example, just moving the elements just out of the screen. And this is another example. On Monday, I was buying a ticket for an Iron Maiden concert, and there were many elements that was hidden using this trick. But I still saw all of them. But it wasn't supposed to. So I could read a lot of loading spinners, confirmation modals, warning for different flows. So all at the same time, I had no idea what's going on. And I did that, the anxiety of missing the concert. So please hide things correctly. you can use the hidden attribute, like in this example, or you can also use the properties like display none or visibility hidden. So there are also different ways to hidden these elements properly. But if you are using this pattern a lot, you might need something else. So maybe something like a details element with a summary element, which expands or collapses the content, or this new way to make a dialog using the proper attribute, which, by the way, is accessible by default, which works well with screen readers, and it closes automatically by pressing escape. Well, you can also close it by clicking outside, and also have their own methods and events to control and extend its features with JavaScript. So before, developing this kind of model dialogues was quite a challenge because we had to add some extra attributes and manage focus properly. But now it's much easier. So try to embrace these kind of restrictions in your projects, because they will make your life easier as a developer, and also your product will be much easier to use and maintain, and will be accessible almost by default. So it's a win-win. And by doing this, accessibility is not as hard as it seems. And today, it's easier than ever to make accessible websites. But for it to be easy, you need to consider accessibility from the beginning. Because if you push it for later, it becomes very challenging and time-consuming. These practices that I shared with you will save you from overusing area attributes that some say are not reliable across all the browsers and screen readers. But I know not everyone has the opportunity to start from scratch. So if you want to start improving the accessibility of your site, I will start by reviewing the most of the basic parts of semantics. So for example, check if you are using the right regions and headings. Check if you are using links properly for anything other than get method, and look for any button that only has an icon, and make sure that it has an accessible label with the area label attribute if necessary. Also check if you have custom controls and try to replace them with native ones. And try to use these new HTML5 elements like this dialog with the popover attribute. And finally, try to use your page with a screen reader. Think if the order in which it reads the element makes sense for you. And that might help you to find out what things are inaccessible. So, and just my dad wanted help me and many others to have a clear and open gateway to the internet. And of course, if you have any questions or you are interested in this topic, you can find me everywhere as Bruno Prieto G. I'd be happy to help you. Also, many thanks to Diego, Michael, and Jorge for helping me and providing me so useful feedback to make this presentation.